Let's get you breaking news coming in of the Supreme Court there putting a stay as far as the UGC regulations are concerned. This is the top court's big observation on UGC. So do remember there were a lot of protests that had erupted over the UGC implementation. And now this is a matter of unity of India is what the Supreme Court has gone on to say. So this is breaking news coming in with the Supreme Court stepping in and putting a stay as far as UGC is concerned. The regulations, this is a big observation by the Supreme Court with the CGI, Surya Kant there, saying in a country after 75 years, all that we have achieved to become a classless society, are we becoming a regressive society? Worst thing which is happening in ragging is that children coming from south or the northeast, they carry their culture and somebody who's alien to that starts commenting on them. Then you have spoken about separate hostels as well. For God's sake, there are inter-caste marriages also now in our society. And we have also been in hostels where all stayed together. That is what the Chief Justice of India has to say about the UGC regulations. Do remember massive protests that took place, and now the Supreme Court putting a stay on that is what basically has been said in court today by the Chief Justice of India. So a huge observation that has been made with that bill, the protests that took place with, of course, a lot of that was being demanded as far as the UGC equity regulation is concerned. So there we have, of course, the Supreme Court there taking matters this was hearing the petitions challenging the promotion of the equity in higher education institutions. The regulations challenge the discrimination against general categories. And of course, this was led by the Chief Justice of India, Surya Kant. And this, the petitions against the UGC equity regulations that were filed, in fact, with the petitioners there contesting the regulations promoting discrimination against general classes. So that was a case that was raised. And of course, Nupur, my colleague, joining us on the phone line. Nupur, take us through the proceedings in court. What is it that the Chief Justice has said, and while putting a stay on the matter?
Well, there are in fact big developments now. The Supreme Court has said that these regulations are vague and can be misused, and they need to be looked upon by an expert committee. It has also sought response from the centre on constitution of an expert committee to look into these new UGC rules. So while issuing a notice to centre, the Supreme Court, in a big intervention, has in fact said that it will be hearing in detail the responses on March 19th. And this is in fact a big development here, because the Supreme Court has not only issued notices but has made some strong observation, and it said that it does not want that the society be further divided on the lines of caste due to these new regulations. It has noted that these, in the current form, these regulations will only lead to further division within the society.
It is questioning, basically, they've been questioning the rules and the definitions, because the definition is of caste-based discrimination. My colleague Padmaja joining us as well. Padmaja, take us through, we saw that massive crowds gathering in protest of the regulation of the UGC. Break it down for us. What is it that they're really demanding here? What are they standing up against? And of course, the Supreme Court, they're really putting a stay on the matter.
This was a very, very unique situation where there wasn't only protests which was happening from the opposition. In fact, they were, ironically, the loudest protests were heard from within the BJP, or at least the people who otherwise would be supportive of the BJP. Many so-called right wing were in protest, and in fact, even ABVP, which is the student body of the RSS, staged protests in several parts of the country. Now, when it comes to what the Supreme Court has done today, it is the observations here which are very, very significant, as are being pointed out again and again by Nupur. For the Supreme Court to say, in a country after 75 years, all that we have achieved to become a classless society, are we becoming a regressive society? Another example was taken inside court, where it was asked, like America, are we going to have a situation where people of color and the white people, their children study in separate schools? Is that the direction that we are going in. The worst thing which is happening is ragging, is that children coming from south or northeast, they carry their culture, and someone who is alien to this starts commenting. Then you have spoken about separate hostels. For God's sake, there are intercaste marriages also in our society. So a couple of things. One, the talk about discrimination. Are you creating a situation where there could be again an injection of discrimination? We're trying to become a classless society, and this is only going to exacerbate the divisions or the fissures that may exist. We don't want to go in that direction after all of these years after independence. Point number one. Point number two, and this was a very significant observation that was made, there are several points which are vague and will be open to misuse, which is why experts need to again see this entire issue, and this needs to have a complete relook. Why this is also important, Divya, is that in the recent past we had seen members from within the BJP. There was one MLC from Uttar Pradesh, and this was the strongest. The reaction to this was the strongest in poll-bound Uttar Pradesh. An MLC from Uttar Pradesh of the BJP said that this is nothing short of Hitler Shahi. जिस तरीके के rules लाए गए हैं, वो forward caste or general caste are going to be victimized under that. Another MLA of the BJP yesterday wrote a letter saying that we need a complete overhaul of these UGC regulations because it is going to be open to misinterpretation and misuse. Then you had got Manan Mishra, who is a Rajya Sabha member of Parliament of the BJP, who again took a nuanced line but basically suggested that this was open to misuse and misinterpretation, and that should not happen. It must also be said that day before yesterday, Dharmendra Pradhan, the education minister, had come out and said that everyone should be assured there will be no misuse allowed of these laws, but the nature of a law is never drafted in order for it to be misused, but when it does happen, people become cannon fodder, and which is where the Supreme Court's proceedings today extremely significant, Divya.
Absolutely. So to know more on exactly what has been said in court, we are back with Nupur joining us again. Nupur, like Padmaja was pointing out that basically the new regulations lack safeguards against its misuse through false complaints. What has the CJI said on this regard?
Well, yes, Divya, today, of course, several strong observations were made by both Chief Justice of India, Surya Kant, who was heading the bench, and Justice Joymala Bagchi, who was part of the bench. They said that they do not, these regulations in the current form, the language that has been used in the current form can be gravely misused, and it cannot leave the general category students remediless. This was the last observation that the top court has made today. It has said that it cannot leave the general category students remediless, and that's why, using its extraordinary powers under Article 142, the Supreme Court has stayed these new regulations in the first instance. Till the time the top court is hearing the matter, new regulations come in place. The 2012 regulations will continue to operate. The Supreme Court has in fact today come down heavily on the way these regulation has been drafted, and has in fact went on to question that now do you want to undo the development that we have done, the casteless society we have over the past 75 years. The country has endeavored to establish a casteless society, but these rules in the current form can in fact lead to further division. The Supreme Court in fact went on to say, do you want a situation like where in the US where blacks and whites are living in separate hostels? Do you want to segregate the society in such a manner that we cannot go back from there on? The Supreme Court said, also pointed out that there are in several states, there are the states have recognized categories of haves and have-nots between the reserved category themselves. So what happens when these two kind of categories discriminate against the less privileged ones? So that is here again the Supreme Court is pointing towards the creamy layer problem in this creamy layer reservation. The Supreme Court has time and again said that state needs to do away with the creamy layer reservations, and now in this also the Supreme Court has made this observation that what about those cases when within a reserved category there are people who have already had taken the benefit of reservations, they are belonging to affluent backgrounds, and what will happen when they themselves...
Okay, let me, Nupur, sorry to interrupt you, just putting you on hold for a second because A. Saravanan of the DMK, in fact MK Stalin today morning, expressed support for these new UGC regulations, and now Mr. Saravanan, they have been put on hold by the Supreme Court with the explicit observation that not only are they vague, they also could be open to misuse, and the suggestion that at a time we are trying to become a classless society, why are we trying to create divisions through these regulations, Mr. Saravanan?
Yes. See, it is very unfortunate that the Supreme Court has stayed these UGC regulations. This is a tool to ensure that there is no oppression. If you look at the people who have been dead, who have taken their lives last 10-15 years, Payal, Tadvi, Rohit, Vemula, Pallavi, Muthukrishnan, all of them belong to the oppressed class of Hindus. And this UGC regulation has been able to protect them. Says, please don't discriminate somebody on the basis that only because they belong to a particular community on the basis of caste. The Supreme Court may well want to abolish class, want a classless society, but the presence of caste and class is an abject reality. We cannot divest ourselves from this reality and say whatever that is going to empower these oppressed Hindus. We cannot say that will create unrest or that will create suspect. See,
okay, you're saying it will create unrest. I'll just put you on hold for a second because Alankar Agnihotri, and he created quite a stir because he is a government officer in Uttar Pradesh who actually resigned his post, and he said the reason for that was the UGC regulations and the action taken against Swami Avimukhteswaranand. Alankar Agnihotri ji, आप सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने रोक लगा दी है, आपकी पहली प्रतिक्रिया?
Yes, first of all, thank you, and this is the victory of India, Indian people. ये भारत के लोगों की जीत है. ये उन डिविजिव जो विभाजनकारी जो ताकतें हैं, जो हमारे आक्रमण, जो जितने भी माननीय जितने भी जनप्रतिनिधि हैं, उनकी एक सोच, उसके जो विरोधी सोच है जन सम्मान के प्रति, जो अपने समाज के प्रति नहीं सोचते हैं, ये एक तरीके से समाज की जीत हुई है. मैं भारतवर्ष के प्रत्येक उस नागरिक का अभिनंदन करता हूं जिन्होंने मेरे साथ पीछे खड़े हुए. मैं चाहता हूं कि इस चीज से ये स्पष्ट हो गया है, जो हमारे देश के ये 543 लोकसभा में जो लोग बैठे हैं, MP, MLA विभिन्न राज्यों में बैठे हैं, इन सबको सामूहिक रूप से रिजाइन करना चाहिए. ये देश को तोड़ने वाला विघटनकारी जो इन्होंने UGC रेगुलेशन जो 13 जनवरी 2026 को गजट लॉन्च किया था, एवरीबडी those who are sitting at the parliament, they are in the different constitutional machineries, they should resign. They should, even if they are belonging to any political party, they all should resign because they have all been they have participated in the launch of and publication of this gadget publication. So
it's so strange. You are saying that they all are resigned. They all should resign, but within the polity also, they are divided. There are many people who are actually speaking against it. Bhushan Sharan Singh, Member of Parliament from Uttar Pradesh, he said that these regulations are bad. And then there are parties like the DMK and the Congress who are supporting this regulation brought in by a BJP government.
See, I am telling you one thing. Yesterday, very reputed Kalaj Mishri, he has categorically said that this provision of this particular provision in the UGC regulation 2026 that is unconstitutional. Then that puts the question to all the legislatures of the Bharatiya Janata Party, MPs who are sitting in the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, that if somebody from their own party, they are saying categorically that this UGC regulation 2026 is unconstitutional. That means these people, they are not doing their jobs. Those who are sitting in the parliament, so those people who belong to those representatives who belong to the Bharatiya Janata Party, they should all, and those who are in support of this bill, the other party members, they should also resign. This is not the question of one party or another party. This is the question of whole India. India as a nation as the first.
अलंकार जी, ये बताइए अभी आप हैं कहाँ? क्योंकि आपको लेकर के where are you now? Because you were taken away from Bareilly.
I am right now traveling from Etah to Hathras. There's a program I'm going.
क्योंकि कई लोग ये कह रहे हैं कि आप भी राजनीति कर रहे हैं, that you are engaging in politics over this issue.
If your own party member is saying that
उनको इन ऑपरेशन किया, उनको प्रभावी किया. अगला कदम क्या रहेगा, क्योंकि इसमें सुप्रीम कोर्ट की तरफ
अब सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने इस मामले में केंद्र सरकार को और सारे पक्षकारों को नोटिस जारी किया है और इस मामले की अगली सुनवाई 19 मार्च को निर्धारित की गई है।
19 मार्च को क्या कुछ होने की संभावनाएं हैं?
अब ये तो कोई व्यक्ति प्रेडिक्ट नहीं कर सकता है। केंद्र सरकार से जवाब मांगा है, केंद्र सरकार अपना जवाब देगी, फिर मामला आगे बढ़ेगा।
मेन काउंसिल नहीं आएगा, वो जा रहा है।
अच्छा, इंग्लिश में कर देते हैं। The Supreme Court today has put a stay on the UGC.
Yeah, today the Honorable Supreme Court heard our writ petition challenging the UGC regulations which have been enacted recently. The Honorable Supreme Court has stayed the UGC regulations and has kept them in abeyance. The Honorable Supreme Court, in exercise of powers under Article 142, has directed that UGC regulations 2012 will be in operation till further orders, and the matter has been posted for hearing on 19th of March.
Thank you so much.
All right, that was Vishnu Shankar Jain giving a description of what happened inside. Vishnu, of course, arguing against the UGC regulations, is strongly against the regulations, which he has said very publicly are against the idea of equity. Akhilesh Sharma and Nupur Dogra both continue to be with us. Also joining us is... All right, अलंकार अग्निहोत्री continues to be with us. अलंकार जी, आप बता रहे थे, आपके ऊपर इल्जाम है कि आप राजनीति कर रहे हैं। क्या कहेंगे उन लोगों से कि आप अभिमुक्तेश्वरानंद जी और इस मुद्दे पर राजनीति कर रहे हैं?
ये आज देश के सबसे पहले तो देश के सभी नागरिकों की जीत हुई है, जिनको राजनीति, जिनको जन प्रतिनिधित्व करना था, जब वो फेल हुए हैं तब मुझे आगे आने पड़ा हुआ है, मजबूरी में आना पड़ा। जब ये जितने हमारे माननीय जन प्रतिनिधि जो जनता का प्रतिनिधित्व करना चाहिए था, ये सब फेल हो गए। ये सब विदेश में जाके यात्रा करते हैं, होटलों में क्या करने जाते हैं। अब इनसे पूरे समाज की जनता पूछेगी ये करने क्या जाते हैं। अपने समाज के जो रेगुलेशंस हैं, जो यूजीसी रेगुलेशंस हैं, ये क्यों बिना पढ़े इसको आगे लाने दिया? जो इतना था, जो इतना विभाजनकारी था, या देश को सिविल वॉर में
विभाजनकारी है, आप कह रहे हैं दिस इज गोइंग टू पुश आवर कंट्री इनटू chaos. Alankar Agnihotri, thank you very much for speaking to us. Let me bring in Akhilesh Sharma. What will the government do now? The matter has next been posted for the 19th of March, which means the entire budget session will have ended by the time this matter comes up again. Within the government, within the party, not within the government actually, within the party, several voices have now opposed it. Akhilesh Sharma.
That's correct. In fact, Kalraj Mishra, who was the former governor of Rajasthan, he spoke publicly against these UGC guidelines. In fact, the government sources indicated to us yesterday, Padmaja, that there is a rethink as far as the guidelines are concerned. They were saying that wait for some time until the matter is heard before the Supreme Court, because the petition was pending before the Supreme Court. And they also indicated that when the standard operating procedures, SOPs, are issued by the respective universities and the educational institutions, you will see that the real impact or the real provisions of the UGC guidelines. But of course, it's a big setback for the central government, because so far they were saying that these UGC guidelines were brought in to make sure that there's equality in the campuses. But as far as the Supreme Court is concerned, we have seen today that not only they have said the 13th January 2026 guidelines, but also made it sure that the earlier ones, the guidelines which were enforced in 2012, were continuing. So that means that the OBC category, which was included by the central government in the UGC guidelines, will not come under the purview of the UGC guidelines. So it's a very big step by the Supreme Court. Now they issued a notice to the central government and also to the UGC. So the central government will now file a reply. And the most likely, as far as the Supreme Court is indicating itself, that there will be a committee to look into the various provisions of the UGC guidelines and also to look into the definition of the discrimination. So I think this matter will be settled now by the Supreme Court.
Akhilesh ji, what exactly went wrong? Now all the finger pointing has started. We had, in fact, Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh speaking against the UGC regulations. His son, who's a member of parliament, is part of that committee, the parliamentary committee, which passed, some of these regulations. Digvijay Singh yesterday came out in the open and said, we had got nothing to do with the discriminatory clauses. This is on the UGC. What actually happened within government? How did this get passed?
Well, Padmaja, whatever Digvijay Singh said, because he was talking in the capacity of the chairman of the Standing Committee of Education, Women, Child and Youth Affairs. But the Congress Party's student organization, the NDTV, had come out openly in support of the UGC guidelines. In fact, the ABVP, which is the student organization of the RSS, was more balanced in its reaction as far as the guidelines were concerned. But there are political undercurrents we must look into because the elections are not far away in Uttar Pradesh, and we have seen fierce protests in Uttar Pradesh on this issue. Several organizations have come on the street protesting against these UGC guidelines. And there was another issue of Swami Mukteshwaranand, which was also being highlighted by the same organization. So it's very clear that there is some political undercurrent. I'm right now in Parliament. We have spoken to many members of Parliament of different political parties. No one, not even a single MP, has come out openly against these UGC guidelines because they know it very well that the message was very clear. It was about the OBC politics, and that's why nobody is in a position to honor a huge vote bank of the OBCs. They feel that by supporting these UGC guidelines, they will be getting the OBC votes. So this is the main reason as far as the politics is concerned.
All right. In fact, speaking of Parliament, first reactions coming in from the Samajwadi Party. Let's listen in to Rajiv Rai.
हमारे साथ हैं समाजवादी पार्टी के सांसद हैं राजीव राय। सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने जो यूजीसी को लेकर जो नया गाइडलाइन आया है उस पर रोक लगा दी है, क्या कहना है आपका?
सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने क्या क्या आधार पाया उसका डिटेल अभी मुझे जानकारी नहीं है, मैं आप लोगों को से सुन रहा हूँ। अभी तो सदन से बाहर ही आया, तो डिटेल आएगा तो डिटेल में प्रतिक्रिया दूंगा। लेकिन ये ज़रूर है कि खाली इस यूजीसी की बात नहीं, सामान्य तौर पर सरकार की एक नीति रही है, कोई सगा नहीं जिसको ठगा नहीं, सबको बेवकूफ़ बनाते रहो। हो सकता है कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कुछ गंभीर मुद्दे नोट किए हो, डिटेल आएगा तो मुझे उसके बारे में बताएं।
सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने यह भी कहा है कि हम जातिगत व्यवस्था की ओर नहीं लौट सकते हैं, फिर से हमको पीछे जाने की ज़रूरत नहीं है।
जाति इस देश की सच्चाई है और सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने क्या कहा ये आप बता रहे हैं, जब मैं अध्ययन करूँगा तो प्रतिक्रिया दूँगा।
हमारे साथ
All right, so initially people staying away from taking any political stands there. Akhilesh Sharma, Nupur Dogra continue to be with us. Coming back to you, Nupur, can you also take us through some of the main arguments? Because Indira Jaising there very clearly saying that this was the need of the hour. Just take our viewers through the arguments that were made inside court.
Well, first of all, from the petitioner's side, Vishnu Shankar Jain appeared as the lead advocate, and he argued that the main objection was regarding the section 3C and 3E and the definition of discrimination under the new regulations, which can be misinterpreted and misused. Now, at the same time, senior advocate Indira Jaising, she was representing the previous case. Remember, these regulations came up after Supreme Court had directed for fresh regulation, more stringent regulations, taking note of the Rohit Vemula and Payal Tadvi petitions, the petitions moved by their mothers, seeking stricter regulations to curb discriminations in higher education. That case had in fact stemmed from the Supreme Court, and it was on the directions of the top court that these new regulations were made. But here, what the top court found problematic was the language in the way in which the new regulations have been framed, and that's why it has said that some experts need to be appointed to look into the language of these discrimination. Indira Jaising, on the other hand, was vehemently defending these particular regulations, saying that caste-based discrimination is still a reality in the country. However, Chief Justice of India Surya Kant reminded her that of course we acknowledge and we want the regulations to remain there, the protection to remain there from caste-based discrimination, but at the same time, we cannot ignore that realities have changed. And remember, a very important observation from the top court came on the matter of creamy layer within the caste reserved categories. The Supreme Court again has made this observation that there is a need to identify, make distinction between haves and have-nots within the reserved category, and there can be discrimination within them also. The top court said that with the 75 years, the realities of the countries have changed, and we do not want to undo what we have achieved in the past 75 years. And these regulations, following them as it is in the current language, would mean going back to a caste society, and which will cause further division among the citizens in the country.